Yo.
Fuck.
You are Clyde, bro.
Again, you don't have any fucking script or anything.
No. Keep this in. Okay.
This is
What's up? It's ABR and CTC with Shofu, Archer, CBB, and we've got a very special guest. Today we have Mr. BKC, Blazing Kicking Chicken himself. the ATE. Okay, we have Lava Spawn. Hi, Lavos. How are you?
What's up, you slobbering retards?
That's not a very nice way to start the interview.
So we don't have a list of questions, but I've got some questions I want to ask you personally. And I'll get this out of the way first. Have you ever teamed with Duncan in any team tournament? You know, like P2.
Wait, were you on my Snake team, P2?
I only played in Snake 1, and
so that's a no.
So
Alright. Never had the pleasure.
I've got no more questions. Alright, someone else take over. That's all.
Lavos, when did you start playing competitive Pokemon, bro?
I started in 2012 on Smogon, but
how old are you? What the fuck? I was like 11.
I was 14, I think. Yeah, I was 14.
I was thinking that old.
Well, were you playing before that?
Before that, I played on some other servers, some small servers, back when Pokemon Online was a thing, and I started doing that when I was 12, so it was like 2010.
Oh, okay. Old man.
It was like Dream World OU shit. It was great fun, but like no one was tryharding.
Didn't you originally I remember you talking about it, didn't you originally start on ceraa, or however you pronounce it?
No, that was someone else. I started on a server called Poke Battle Center.
Oh.
Yeah, PBC. Yeah, in the know. And then I went to PO and then to Smogon.
Yeah. How did I've always wondered this since you've been around and you've played in tournaments for so long. How did you meet the people? How did you get the connections to actually get picked for the tournament? So it was an individual talk you did specifically well in, which eventually got.
Oh yeah. So this is an interesting one because my entry was a total accident. In 2012, for the US West World Cup roster, one of their players left right before signups were closing, and so they needed another guy. And they were doing tryouts, and I got on IRC and challenged Phillips 7086. I was like, I'll beat anyone on this team, hands down. I didn't know what I was talking about. I was running lead Aerodactyl hyper offense with King's Rock Cloister. And I actually somehow shit on everyone I played against, so they were like, okay, you're on the team. And then I went 5-1 and we won the tournament that year. And from there, everyone wanted to get to know me. But I was a complete unknown before May of 2012.
Yeah.
Well, it's clearly a metagame innovator because King's Rock Cloister did make a return this
original. Yeah.
Did it really?
Yeah. It's Cloister's main set.
I was fucking around with one of my friends back in the Pokemon Online days, and we figured out, King's Rock actually procs on every hit of Icicle Spear and Rock Blast. We should use that. It'd be really funny to, kill a Slowbro with that shit. Yeah, and it worked out, I guess, so.
Yeah, it's the main set for Cloister in, Gen 8. It's actually made it, good.
That's funny.
Yeah. I don't think
I know nothing about Gen 8, so that's good to hear.
Stay away. Yeah. I mean, it's okay now, but back at the start of the gen, everyone was running Clef, Pex, Corviknight shit, and people just realised that 50% of the time Cloister meets all three of those monsters after a stealth match. And you saw it in some tournament games. It was not. I think Tricking brought it to the invitational finals of that Callus tour that had a couple hundred.
Oh yeah.
Tricking brought
Callus' stuff.
Yeah. I don't think he plays. He was hosting a tournament. He was holding the money in a pool.
Yeah. That guy's quit 3 times.
I also wanted to ask. Originally, at the start, you didn't play what you're known for now. Gen 2, you were black-white player, weren't you?
Yeah, that's
originally.
right.
Yeah. How did you Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say, how did you like eventually transition from Black White to Gen 2? Because you had like such like a long break as well, and to come back and be like, I don't mean to like just slob on your cock, but like become so like dominant at like Gen 2. Like, how did you like transition from like such like different metagames?
Yeah, so I started as a black-white player. I was always interested in the older gens because I grew up playing like Crystal and Emerald and stuff, so those were always interesting to me. And actually, BKC is the guy who got me interested in those. Because he was super into Gen 3 and Gen 4 at the time, and so I sort of learned that from him by playing with him. And then my first SPL, I was on a team with Earthworm, who was like the Gen 2 god at the time, and so I just like pestered him constantly to learn how to play the gen. I read all of like Borat's shitty, outdated guides on GSC, and I played with all the guys. Most of the GSC guys back then were like really nice and willing to like teach you and give you some games if you wanted to learn how to get better. Nothing like they are now, by the way. Everyone's so fucking secretive now. They're like, you can't play me. I have to keep this team secret for OST or what. It's so retarded. I mean,
I suppose that's a good question.
And like, then, just to finish the other one. So I played Black and White in a few SPLs and like was consistently dog shit, and I think lost the season for my team one time because I brought like Volcarona hyper offense in a tiebreak and got shit on. And so I quit for a year, and then when I came back, I was like, fuck Black and White, I'm going to learn something else. And I just picked GSC because it looked interesting, and turns out I was really good at it.
I mean, you did go, was it 12-1 in that SPL?
Yeah, 12-1. I think that's the most wins ever.
Yeah, I think, was it the same, I remember, was it the same SPL where it was like you and Lax like kind of carried the team?
We hard carry. Yeah, so on Tyrants I went 10-1, I think, and that, or maybe it was 9-1, I forget. And then the next year on Ruiners I went 12-1, and Lax did something insane too. He was like 9-2 or something.
Yeah, I remember that because it was the fucking time. It was like all the ZV stuff happened in FPOA.
Oh yeah, that's so fun. Like Crustacean Forge and all those anagrams.
And like Iran be lit and all that shit. It was so funny. It was like the same year where like all of like FPOA like played in tours other than like me. Like it was like you, Lax, Duncan, Dodman, Coolio, ICC. You all played in like SPL and shit. It was.
That's so crazy year for me.
You're wax, Jake. You're shit.
I'm crazy. I was also going to ask, because obviously I know you from FPOA. Before that, in like 1999, what like groups did you like associate yourself with? Was it just like you like World Cup jerk?
Are you an advocate of the jerk? My favourite Smogon community.
Or you in like any like PO shit like IDM?
Jeez, my first ever like clan was called Legion of Doom, the LOD, and it was actually a clan of Mexicans, and they brought me in because, no, I'm serious, because I was on PO. I went to their little server, and like they were having some tournament, and I kicked everyone's ass because they were all terrible. And then the head guy like recruited me, and I was actually on Skype with him all the time and stuff. He was really funny.
Did he speak English?
And he spoke a little English. And I played in all these Mexican tournaments, and it was hilarious. But after that, I didn't really have one jerk that I like associated with besides the West guys from World Cup. I hung out with like Funkasaurus and Stone Cold and Crash and Boom Bang way back in the day. Back when those guys were cool.
We do love CDB on this channel.
Mostly West, and then just like other good old gens players, because I tried to learn from them, and they eventually learned stuff from me too.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I was just going to ask, could you get us in contact with BKC? Because we really want to interview him on this show as well.
No, it's so weird, dude. He used to be legit my best friend on this site for like at least 2 or 3 years. And then after I quit and came back, I only was gone for like a year. But after I came back, he was like super cold to me and shit. So I don't really know what happened there. I guess
Yeah.
people just change over time, and I think we were more similar as like teenagers than we were as adults.
I mean, both of you make an appearance in the thumbnail as well, if you want to look at it.
Yo, that was my big moment.
Yeah, I literally just googled lava spawn Smogon. What the fuck? Because I didn't know what else to use, but...
Yeah, that was my big moment. That was the World Cup Finals win. That was the first game of the finals too.
Legendary.
I
Yeah.
forgot to ask. So when you originally started playing, say when you signed up for the West tournament that you were talking about, and you smashed everyone, did you was it just because you were better than everyone, but you weren't you hadn't really been in a high level competitive scene, so you didn't know it before, or was was it the teams that you were using to unorthodox for the meta?
So
what do you think helped?
I definitely wasn't that good skill-wise, relative to where I am now, for example. But back in 2012, everyone was worse. I think if you took the best player from that time and put him against an average tournament player now, it'd probably be pretty even. The skill ceiling was just lower back then. But for that tournament in particular, it was because I didn't really listen to anyone else's building advice. I didn't follow the meta because I didn't know about all that shit. I just built whatever I wanted. Like against M-Dragon, I brought a Hydration Vaporeon Rain team, and it had Rest and Work Up and something, and it was supposed to be a sweeper. And I actually beat him with it. Or I brought that Aerodactyl Cloister Hyper Offense twice in groups and won with it. So it was just more about innovation and stuff. The meta was really unrefined back then because it was still Black and White 1. It wasn't even Black and White 2 yet. And no one really knew what they were doing. So being ahead of the curve really paid off.
That's understandable. So obviously you're a GSC main. Do you enjoy that meta the most, or is it just the one that you consider yourself best at? I'm pretty much, I assume everyone else considers you the best at. Do you have any preference, or is it always GSC?
I've grown to enjoy it the most because I feel like there's the most room for skill expression, because once you've seen 3 of your opponent's Pokemon, you can pretty reasonably guess the other 3. Different than in other gens without team preview, like Gen 3 or Gen 4, it's much more of a toss-up. And then since the way stats work, the way crits work, the way there's only one layer of spikes, there's no perma-weather, anything like that, it just feels like the gen is a lot more dependent on what you're doing in the game rather than what you're bringing to the game. And it's more determined on what happens within the game itself rather than what happens in the team builder. So that's what I came to like so much about it. And it's kind of more slow and methodical. There's no choice band or choice specs or 140 base power attacks that are going to kick your ass in one turn. So
yeah, I was going to say afterwards. I know you. I don't know you, but I can understand you advocate more towards something that relies a lot on skill, because no one likes getting hacked. But I suppose you can testify your 12-1 records actually being better than all your opponents, instead of getting lucky in a few games.
Yeah, and I chalk a lot of that up to team building as well, because it's still important in GSC like it is in every other gen. I would go through years of my opponent's replays if they had them and just figure out what all their preferences are and try to build a team that was tailored to counter each of those preferences, and most of the time it worked out.
In GSC, I've got such a basic understanding of it. Is how straight is team building really straightforward, or is there a lot of variety to what's actually viable in the gen? Because obviously when you spectate games, it just looks like it's really similar stuff, and then you occasionally get Belly Drum Charizard defense or whatever. Is it diverse when it comes to team building, or is it really similar?
So obviously there's only 250 Pokemon, so there's not that many that you're going to use in the first place. I'd say on the fringes of viability, there's probably 35 Pokemon in GSC that you could use in a competitive setting, but within that there's a lot of room for diversity in terms of movesets, in terms of itemization, and just in terms of what approach you want to take to your game, because you can do anything from full explosion-based hyper offense to stall that literally aims to win the game by running your opponent out of PP. Like, you can do whatever. So I really enjoy that flexibility. And, you know, when I started, I only played the explosion shit because it was easiest. But, you know, once you grow to learn the format a little bit more and branch out, I think that's when you really start to appreciate it, as opposed to something like Black and White, where I really enjoyed it at the start because of how simple it felt. But then I realized that, you know, after time, there wasn't a lot of depth to the metagame.
Yeah.
So you
I was also...
sorry.
sorry. No, you can say yours. Sorry.
Right. So you mentioned like the innovation aspect in GSC. I don't know much about the GSC meta myself. Is there anything you yourself have innovated which has had its influence on the metagame since?
I did a few things. One of them I actually retroactively got banned, which was passing a trapping move like Spiderweb or Mean Look. You could do that with Smeargle and then, you know, trap your opponent's Pokemon that doesn't really do anything and pass around your whole team, buffing up everything.
Oh,
Kind of like Baton Pass works in other gens, but it's different in GSC because there's no taunt, and like half the Pokemon have Roar or Whirlwind, so
that was
it's a
you who
lot
did that
riskier.
first.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then other stuff like a lot of the lead metagame, I'd say I innovated quite a bit, like putting a Miracle Berry on Cloyster, Executor, something like that to counter Nidoking or other Executor leads. Just little item techs. And then like the Miracle Berry Belly Drum Charizard that I used in week 1 of SPL 10, I think it was, against Jimmy Turtwig. Maybe it was SPL 9, actually. I actually have a couple threads in the Ruins of Elf forum on Smogon, if they're still around, and you could probably go back and look at those, because I posted a bunch of team dumps and mentioned like stuff I did first. But in a meta that's been around for 20 plus years, it's hard to take full credit for anything, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense because, like you said, it's been around for so long, and it's already like had time to like flourish and like develop as a meta. What do you think the biggest change in the gen has been since you've like started playing it? Like, what do you think like the most significant change to GSC has since you started playing it?
Since I started playing,
Yeah.
the biggest change was the rise of Jinx, because before about 2018, nobody was using Jinx at all. It was like a trash can, you know, borderline underused Pokemon. And then people just sort of realized, I think IFM or Sulcata or one of those guys realized first, like Jinx just destroys the standard explosion offense, which was like Zapdos, Cloyster, Steelix, Exeggutor, Snorlax, and Gengar. I mean, Jinx hard counters 4 of those 6 Pokemon. So people started running it on their explosion offenses to counter other explosion offenses. And then that led to an adaptation of explosion offense and an adaptation of stall, because stall became more powerful as a result of Jinx's prevalence. And then the meta started turning and turning as a result of that. Also, I would say Golem is a close second. The Earthquake, Rapid Spin, Roar, Explosion set has been huge for the metagame. It actually brought in a phaser that isn't shit like Fortress and Starmie are, and that you can use on an offensive team without feeling bad about yourself. So that was a pretty big change too. Honestly, GSC has evolved so much in the last 3 years. It's probably changed more in the last 3 years than it did in the previous, like, 17.
Yeah.
And that's because of people like me and Sulcata and BKC and all these other guys. So they're like pushing it forward constantly. I'm not sure where it is now because I haven't played in a year, but
Right.
Do you still think there's like a lot of room for innovation? Like, do you think the meta's stabilized more, or do you see maybe in the next 2 years someone could come along and change the meta, shake it up?
there's always room for innovation, and I know this because there's tons of ideas I had that I just never used in a tournament, but that at least, you know, as of a year ago, back when I was consistently watching replays and stuff, they had never been used in tournaments, and like legitimately competitively viable stuff. So there's always ideas out there. It just takes someone who isn't afraid to get embarrassed on the big stage with a big loss, to, whip that stuff out and actually make people recognize it. And then those archetypes start getting refined and start becoming competitive along with the rest of the stuff. But when you have a bunch of mediocre players competing like you do now, you're not going to get a lot of that innovation because people are just going to stick to what's safe.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got a question for you. You're obviously well versed in classic tiers because you did win classic before, and you had a very was it the following one you had the close run?
Yeah, I was in semifinals and I got reverse swept by McMegan.
Yeah, that was quite an unfortunate series. But how easy did you find it to adapt into those other tiers and become so efficient in them?
I thought it was pretty easy because I already knew black and white.
Yeah.
GSC was like my expertise. Gen 3 is actually pretty similar to GSC in the way it plays out. It's just, a bit more aggressive and a bit more reliant on like guessing what your opponent is going to do on key turns, I guess. And RBY is extremely simple. It only takes a few games of that to figure out what it's all about. And other than that, I never got comfortable with Gen 4. I think it's fucking garbage because it has all the overpowered elements of Gen 5, but without team preview, so you can't even see what's going to fuck you over until your opponent sends it out. And oftentimes you'll feel like you're so far ahead, and then your opponent just happens to have the exact Pokemon or the exact move that fucks you over. And it's like, how was I supposed to play around that?
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you actually thought about Gen 4, because every time I've always seen it being played, I'm not necessarily an experienced player in the slightest, but whenever I've seen Gen 4 played, it always feels like they can play so well and then just lose to random Dragon Dance Kingdra in the back. Like, even after like playing so well during the game, because it's such an offensive meta, that team preview is so detrimental, because you can't necessarily, you can to an extent predict what maybe they have, but it's so much more difficult than it is in ADV or GSC or RBY, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah, and the unbanning of Latias actually made it a little easier because the meta is now so centralized around it because it's such a strong Pokemon, and it actually significantly limited the amount of viable builds. So now figuring out what's in your opponent's team isn't as difficult. The issue is still, however, that given the high power variance in the tier and just the sheer amount of options that are available to you regardless, team matchup becomes such an issue that it's just not present to nearly that extent in the prior gens. I think of the classic tiers, it's by far the worst one.
Sorry, do you want to ask your question?
No, I was just going to quickly say it was like not a very unpopular opinion that EPP isn't very good. On the fence about it. Sometimes I think it's good, but sometimes I think it's absolute shit. But
I think it's really enjoyable to watch as a spectator, but that's because it can shift gears like so quickly from being like in favor of one person to being in favor of the other person. Yeah. I don't think it's like super competitive from what I've seen in most cases, but like it's an exciting meta to watch, I think.
I think there's going to I think it's really good to watch when both the players are like very experienced. They understand what the fuck's going on without preview. They know what their opponent's last is, whatever. When two really good players are playing DPP, it is really amazing to watch. But when they're just randoms playing it, it's just not, worse players. It's just not the same, really.
Even when it's two really good players, though, I think especially, like, I've been on a team with Philip7086, who's one of the best DPP players, for many years. And he'll always try to just cheese his really good opponents because he knows they're really good. And if he brings standard shit, like, they're going to sniff it out and he's going to have a bad time against them. So I forget who he was playing against, but one of those games in World Cup, it was like he was getting destroyed the whole game, and they just pulls out a Crocoon that's like max HP, max defense, and his opponent's running some Hippowdon balance, and he just gets 6-0'd. And it's like, okay, nobody fucking uses Crocoon, but he just happened to have it, so he wins the game. That doesn't happen nearly as much in other gens, I feel.
Yeah. I was going to ask, on the topic of other players, who do you think, around the time you played, obviously with you, I'm just slobbing on your cock again, who was like, who was like at the top of like the GSC pool around when you played? Who do you think, like, when you played him, you were like, oh shit, I'm like playing this person next week or whatever?
Let's see. The other best player was BKC. There's no question about that. He really understands GSC on an incredibly deep level. Other than that, it's weird because I feel like Chulio is equally good at the game. I don't even think he still plays anymore.
I
But
don't think he does have you.
he would always bring just the dumbest teams, stuff that's like outside the fringes of viability, and for that reason I wasn't ever scared to face him. I knew he was really good and I respect him a lot, but geez, other than that, one guy who you wouldn't expect actually is Ojama. He barely touched GSC before Classic came around, but he adapted to the tier really well. I don't think he had the depth of knowledge that like me or BKC did at the time, but he certainly made up for it in just his sheer ability because he's always been really, really strong at reading his opponents.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's about it.
I was going to say, how well do you think knowledge in other gens, like, say, fuck knows, I don't know if he plays GSC, but just pretend he doesn't. Like if Megan was like, oh, I'm going to start playing GSC, how well do you think he could translate his knowledge of other metagames onto GSC? Or do you think it's just like a completely different gen?
I think it's much easier for players who have foundations in old gens to transition to other old gens. I think the guys who started in like Gen 6 and later, that sort of era of player, with notable exceptions like ABR, for example, have had difficulty in transitioning to an equivalent level of skill at old gens. But I think a guy like Megan is going to pick up pretty much anything easily because he's frankly really good at everything.
Yeah. I was also going to ask, I remember.
Is that the level spawn? Oh my god, I'm a huge fan.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, bro?
Alex has just returned from being jailed.
Yeah.
He's now in the call. That was him.
He just got bailed out. But,
Welcome back to society.
yeah.
Thanks, bro. I'm glad to be back.
I was going to ask as well, what did you think of ABR's brief like GSC run in SPR? Because remember, you actually did lose to him. I think you lost like once. But what do you think of like his run in general? Because it was like really unexpected. That he actually did like decent, or what I'd consider decent.
Yeah, no, he did really well. He just, watching him play pisses me off so much because he always picks like the safest possible teams and tries to cover himself against every single out in the standard meta, and he'll leave himself open to like 2 or 3 massive threats and just not care about it because his whole philosophy is like, well, I don't think he's going to bring that, so he's not going to bring that. And that's an approach that I dislike a lot in GSC, but I mean it worked for him. He put up the results, and I lost to him, so I can't say anything about that. Well, I can't say a little bit because that game is bullshit, but he still played it really well.
Yeah.
He has such like a new gen approach to it. Yeah, it just rubs me the wrong way. He's really good though.
Yeah.
He's obviously like a top player, but I agree. I hate watching ABR play because you kind of you're going into an ABR game and like let's say we just watched him play Smog and like I'm well aware going into Gen 6, which is like sticky web Gen Central, and he's going to bring something fat, and I just know it, and I know it's going to be like a 100-turn game every time. Whereas like when I watch someone like Tricking play, who I like consider like new gens at least, Tricking is still probably like a top player even if he doesn't play very much. He always brings something interesting, but again, like on the side of innovation, stuff that's actually viable. Like I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he innovate at any of this, and I can never tell if he's even building because he's an Italian and there's like 200 of them probably in core all at once. But he brings stuff like trick ring target in Gen 8 so that he can Volt Switch on Seismitoad and stuff like that. Early gen was quite niche, but he always seemed to bring stuff like that. And I don't know, I find it way more interesting to watch someone like that play over ABR, who tends to bring Mega Altaria Stall in every Gen 7 game I've ever seen him play.
Yeah. I'm always a sucker for innovation. I like the guys who are pushing the boundaries of the metagame. And, watching people just stick to standard, it works. That's why it's standard, but I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, would you call yourself a fan of the Heater for Heater series featuring
Oh I can't say that I've ever seen an edition of that, but I'm intrigued by the title.
Yeah, it's the whole point is that like they call it Heat because it's like
90% of the time it's
That's really cool and clever, and I'm definitely gonna check that out after this interview.
on a real question though, what's your opinion on CTC as a builder? I don't think he builds the old gens very much, but my opinion of CTC is that I'm sure he builds like 200 teams a day, and only like 2 of them are good. But he's still a good builder somehow. Maybe I think that might be how building is, to be honest.
So I was going to say, because you were there for like CTC Prime in like 25
I was actually I was friends with CTC way back in the day, like 2011 era Pokemon Online.
Did he switch to an IDM team?
I think with his team building, it's like, have you ever heard the expression about the monkey and the typewriter?
Yeah.
If you give a typewriter or a monkey and give it an infinite amount of time, it'll eventually write a work of Shakespeare. It's like that. He built so many fucking teams. Some of them have to be good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good equation.
I used a different analogy like 3 hours ago. I said if you shoot 200 bullets at a target, like 2 of them are going to hit, surely.
Yeah.
Did
Also, oh sorry, no, you can say yours.
no, I was just gonna ask. Were you ever friends with CTC at the time when he could preview bars of the cipher to you?
I wasn't privy to those talents.
I was going to ask you as well. This is just the real questions. It's the meat and potatoes of this interview. I was going to ask you, who do you think is absolute dog shit on the website? Like, who do you think is like awful? Like, call some people out, just throw some names, just say who's like awful at the game. Like, call them out, put on blast.
No, they don't even have to be awful at the game because I don't think that's like fair. Who is like an objectively awful user?
Yeah, just call some people out.
Who just shouldn't be able to Pokemon?
Objectively awful users. All of Smogon's administration, moderation team, anyone in a position of power there most likely has sucked a few dicks on his or her way.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to look forward to putting this one on Smogon. That's going to go down a treat.
I think all of the administration are just like garbage human beings. I don't understand. This is going to sound salty, but I hopped on the Smogtours server the other day. But this was before they perma-banned me for saying a naughty word in a private server. I didn't even realize was possible. I hopped on the server just to say hi to a couple old friends, and within a minute, this admin Sam took away my voice because he was like, "Oh, Tor banned users can't have a voice on Smogtours." Like, wow. Man, I'm not playing anymore. I just wanted to say hi to some people. That's just a dick move. Who sucks at the game?
Yeah, who's like trash?
Geez, it's been so long, and if they suck, I probably haven't thought about them in a while. I gotta say that classic series against McMegan semifinals, I played so much fucking better than him, and I still feel ripped off. I wanted that repeat. In GSC, Mr. E sucks. I don't know if he's even still around.
Yeah, he is.
I don't think he'll ever leave, to be honest. I think he might die on Smogon.
Yeah, he's the goat there. He's like...
everyone on Northeast sucks, especially Brofist. That guy is really fucking trash and ghosted. Oh, and can I just say, Team US Northeast, formerly US East, has been ghosting in call for the last 9 years of the World Cup of Pokemon, and they have never been punished for it. And they will continue to ghost this year.
You heard it here first. Only on the Big Keanu Chungus channel.
I mean, I heard it from Stone Cold first, who was on that team for 5 or 6 years.
You don't get this insight anywhere else.
Yeah. So
That's
speaking
quite
of ghosting, can you give us an insight into your ghosting scandal and what actually took place? Because I don't think I've ever heard it from you.
That was really funny.
Were you pressured into ghosting because you're so good?
No, so this was back when I was
Bang.
friends with Elodin, which I am not anymore, obviously, because he sold me out. That was pretty mean. He was just paired against Finchinator in like round 4 or round 5 of the GSC Cup, and Finchinator is funny to troll, so I thought it would be hilarious if I ghosted Elodin and he like easily 2-0'd him, and Finch was like, what the fuck, how'd you get so good at GSC? So, I mean, that's what I did, and it was literally a non-issue. I didn't even play anyone in the tournament that was a result of that match. So I don't know why they were like, you can't have your trophy anymore because you ghosted once in this tournament in a round that didn't affect you. But, you know, it happens. I think, did I win the GSC Cup that year? I think I did.
Yeah, it's the same year you won Classic.
I suppose fucking GSC expert Finchinator could have stormed through the bracket and taken my throne, and then I would have never won Classic. So good job, tournament directors. You saved the day.
Do you think, like excluding Smogon administration, just people on Smogon in general that you have had experience being friends with or even just known about, do you think that they take the website way too seriously and will go out of their way to ruin anyone's fun in some cases? Like, as you say, Illidan sold you out, even if you were friends, like...
Of course. I mean, I took this website way too seriously for at least like 3 or 4 years. Back in like 2012 to 2014, I was a total badge whore, and I was like writing analyses and stuff that I hated doing just to get those shiny pixels. I mean, I was a teenager, and a lot of these people are teenagers, so I don't really blame them because I'm sure Pokemon and Smogon are a big part of their identities at this stage in their lives. But you know, to the people in their 20s, the late 20s, geez, some of these people are even in their fucking 30s now, who are still taking this shit seriously, acting like they're at church when they're in a fucking Smog Tours Discord or whatever. Like, it's ridiculous, man. It's just a game. We're all here to have fun. So,
Yeah.
you know, I support that in the end.
I mean, I agree, like, for the most part. I think you know, obviously in some cases it's a bit different, but I think for the most part, anything you say in a private server, that's in a private server. People taking it out of that private server and using it against you is like, it looks more scummy on them than you, especially without like good context.
Yeah.
And I think people who like sell out their friends for anything, including ghosting, I think is stupid because it's a fucking Pokemon game at the end of the day. Like, I'd rather keep like friends that at least are mostly real for the most part in Smogon, rather than, you know, keep my shiny pixels if one of them did something slightly wrong.
Some of these friends are super real. Like, some of the guys from West, we actually did an IRL meetup last year in San Francisco, and that was one of the best times of my life, even though I was only there for a few days, because they're genuinely good people and fun to be around. And there's friends I've had on this website for 8 or 9 years that I'm still friends with to this day, and I really value those people. But, you know, other people just fucking run for the hills, or at the first sign of trouble, or you know, sell you out for seemingly no reason whatsoever.
I think what annoys me as well is that when you have like the people who don't play the Pokemon, have you seen that fucking thing? People having a signature like against ghosting and cheating. Like,
I always thought that was a joke.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah.
I thought it was a joke, bro. I hope it's a joke.
And like half of the people who had it, like fucking Texas Cloverleaf, all they did was play like the anime style battling in like the Circus Maximus forum and shit. And like, they didn't even like play the game, and like they're taking it too seriously and shit. I'm not calling him out, I don't know him, but it's just
the other thing. I've been on Smogon for quite a while, but I'm not like a high level player. I'm like average, I'd say. But I've seen just over the years, it's just developed into so many. Like, there was always a couple big circle jerks. Like Fopoa was a big one when it was around.
Yep.
Go.
Shout out.
But even before that, you had like these circle jerks that were like kind of big, but they weren't overwhelming. The sites just evolved into everyone has their own circle jerk, and if you're not in one, then you actually don't matter on the website at all. Like, you can't get drafted for shit unless you have connections anymore.
Yeah.
Like, there's so little emphasis on being a good player that it's so hard to into any tour and make an outbreak unless you get lucky in like an OST run. Because at the end of the day, you have to be lucky to win OST at least once for the most part.
That's just, to me, the natural end game of a situation where you have, a few tournaments per year and a few people in positions of power who get to decide who gets to play in and who gets to do well in the big tournaments. And naturally, everyone's going to gravitate towards those select few, and that's how you end up with all these jerks like this, especially in the tournament scene. I don't really know much about Smogon outside of tours, but tours have gotten really toxic. They used to be way more inclusive back in my day.
Yeah, I've been around on Smogon for like a fair bit. I mean, my start was a bit different, but I've noticed that
You've been AIDS for like 8 years.
Yeah, it's true, but I remember back then, because I've been in CPG for like 6 years or something, and when the whole like OST, like 2015, out when the style stuff happened, the emphasis on being in the circle jerk wasn't as prevalent as it was like now. I think that's like partially due to like Discord and like how prominent Discord is in like online spaces, because it's so easy to just make a chat, and like it's not like an inconvenience to use like Skype, because Skype sucks. Like Skype's dog shit, but like
Yeah, Skype fucking sucks.
and like also you don't need to like make a showdown room. I know some of you OGs will remember having to talk in like showdown rooms and stuff, but yeah, I mean, and it's also like a lot of people felt, I don't know why, inconvenienced by IRC, and I think that like with the rise of Discord, it's just common sense that like a lot of circle jerks will start like, popping up because it's so easy to like make them and stuff.
It's actually wild. If you were around before like Discord was a thing, like actually how much more difficult it was just to speak to people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's changed massively over the last few years.
Yeah, the change from IRC and Skype to Discord like warped social relations on this website to a very extreme degree.
Yeah.
It just made like clout chasing so much more visual and so much more like interactive, and it made it so easy to participate in too.
Yeah, it's true. Shit, I don't know what else I want to ask. Oh yeah, let's talk about your infamous quit post. What do you have to say about that?
So, I just got to ask them. When you were typing it out and when you finished, did you look at it and think,
Quitting? Like, no, if I cared that much, I wouldn't fucking quit.
Yeah, I find it like, oh sorry, I was going to say that I find it like ironic how you have like people who grammar check like 50 analysis per day, saying like, oh look at this guy, fucking take it too seriously, and like failing to realise the irony of someone who spends like 16 hours a day fucking grammar checking analysis for free, and then being like, oh look at this guy. Shit.
I love all these fucking plebs coming out of the woodwork. Haha, he's mad because he lost in the semifinals of Classic after winning it the year before. It's like, what have you done, you know?
Yeah, it's so ironic how like all the same people would have easily like sucked you off before this, and now when it becomes like funny because oh haha quit first.
See, that wasn't a surprise to me, because in like the year before I quit, obviously one World Cup, one SPL, one Classic, everyone was sucking me off, and I was like, all right, I know you're not all being genuine. Like, there's no way I went from one of the guys you like talk shit about, to one of the guys you're praising in public overnight. And to see people turn right back around and go, oh, fuck that guy. After I made that quit post. So it's like, yeah, that's about what I expected.
It was so funny because you really like, I don't know, I guess it didn't really fucking matter because it's on fucking Smogon, it shouldn't really matter what like your friend group particularly thinks of you. But I remember you going from mid-level, because obviously the fucking Lavos calc shit, it was like, oh look at this guy or whatever, shit, and then you went from people sort of poking fun at that to like everyone riding you in like 2 years. And like it just public opinion just like changed. And like I don't think I've like really seen that happen in such like a big way, which happened to you.
Yeah, maybe only to ABR. I think only he had such like a meteoric rise after being fucking mediocre.
Yeah. Does anyone have anything else to add? Because I don't have anything else to say.
you ever see yourself coming back to the scene? Or...
No.
Oh, there we go.
Don't get me wrong. I still really like some of the old, like I'd play Gen 2 or Gen 3 or Gen 5 casually, but you know, I have a different laptop now, so I don't have any of my old teams, and you know, the people in positions of power on Smogon have made it very clear that they don't want me around any longer. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to just let things lie at that. You know, this game was a huge time suck for me for many years. I had a lot of fun playing it, and I don't know. I'm older now. I have better ways to waste my time, so I don't see myself coming back.
Before you go, do you have any specific people or anything that you'd like to say? I don't know, mainly people maybe that you think are at the top of the competitive scene who still play that you know about, or just anyone super cool that you'd like to mention.
Before that, I would also like to ask, if you don't mind saying, like, what are you like doing in like real life and stuff now? Like, what's next for Lavos Sport?
Oh, sure, I don't mind. I don't want to give
trigger speed running.
I am getting pretty good at that. Let's see. I don't want to give too much away, like personal details.
Yeah,
but
drop your phone number for us, and we'll hit you up. Yeah.
Yeah, just so my social security number is. No, I'm actually teaching middle school right now. Obviously, it's summer, so not currently, but I'm going to be starting up again next year and applying for law school. That's my plan in 2021.
Nice.
Things are going pretty well.
That's good. But yeah, like Cam said, is there anything you want to like shout out? Is there anyone you want to shout out or call out, or any groups or anything?
Yeah.
Anyone you want to drop a diss track? We've got time.
As epic as possible.
Yeah, I had a whole rap prepared actually. Let's see. All the guys in Team US West, I'm in their Discord anyway, but I mean they've really made my time on this website the most enjoyable, and I love all those guys. They're really great. Other than that, you know, Stone Cold, Ojama, McMegan, BKC, the guys I really looked up to over the years, Earthworm for sure. You know, they always gave me something to strive for, to improve at, and I appreciate them for that. Always, you know, keeping the level really high. And then just, you know, you guys and the guys from FPOA and the guys from the Herc back when that was a thing, and all that stuff. You know, I really enjoyed my time just hanging out on Discord and on IRC and shooting the shit. There's a lot of really funny and really intelligent people on this website, and it will always blow my mind how many fucking like genius IQ level Ivy League students there are wasting 12 hours a day playing fucking Pokemon online. It's amazing.
Drop a name. Is it Blog or Fargle?
Oh wait, I've got a quick question.
What do you think
Fargle's username is? What do you think of his username?
Of the username Blarglefarg? What do I think of that?
Yeah, what your opinions?
Do you think he's one of those genius level IQ people? It's in his name. He clearly is.
I really try not to think about it.
Yeah, I think that's it. Unless anyone wants to add it.
I mean, it's been a good podcast, but I broke my fucking lights, so...
Oh, I would like to say I didn't even know I was doing this until 5 minutes before I was doing it. So, thanks. Sorry if I just got off Discord with Nagel, so sorry if I sounded retarded the whole time. And thanks for having me on.
Honestly, we didn't know we were doing... No, I was just going to say, we didn't know we were doing a YouTube channel until 5 minutes before we started recording our first video.
Alright,
so we were all prepared.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly ask, what's your favourite CTC Cypher verse? 2013, 2016 or 2019?
Jeez, I don't think I could answer. I don't think I could give an informed response.
I think if you can't give an informed response, you best go listen to all of them right now.
It's got to be 2013 because he only got worse with age.
Hop on that session with some Mexican.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on. That was actually really good.
Especially cheers.
Yeah, thanks. That was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.